Welcome to our next video in the series of training for Vanguard Youth Method. In this video I'd like to address the concept of one of our 5 pillars, and that's the core and crust concept. We need to have youth that have both a strong core and a strong crust. And we'll go into details in this video on what exactly that means. A little background on that, I'd like to use a quote from a man named George Steiner, and he observed this. He said, "In reflecting on the atrocities of the Holocaust, we know now that a man can read Goethe or Rilke in the evening, that he can play Bach and Schubert, and then go to his day's work at Auschwitz in the morning. What grows up inside civilization that seems to lead to this barbarism? What grows up," he proposes, "is information without knowledge, knowledge without wisdom, and wisdom without compassion." People are learning things, they're not figuring how to apply it, and they're not applying it with compassion. So what our goal instead is to have people who can read Goethe and sundown, can play Bach in the evening, and the next morning be passionate and emphatic in going and fulfilling a good God-given mission and willing to sacrifice for their fellow men. So Timothy Clark described this in his concept of the core and crust of leadership, an article that was in the Tribune several years ago. In this article, he said that everyone has a core or a value set or principles, or they can have one, they should have one. So these are values. That's our core, that's what makes us who we are, and that's what gives us strength and purpose. Okay, then we have our crust, and that is our skills. We all need skills. Skills are things like knowing how to do math, knowing how to play the piano, knowing how to cook, knowing how to speak, knowing how to present ourselves, knowing how to eat well. These are all skills that we can gain to help strengthen our crust. Now, Timothy Clark, in his article, he talks about some examples of people with varying degrees of strong skills, strong cores, and strong crusts. I'd like to give you some examples that he gives. One he gives is an example of someone who has a weak core and a weak crust. So we basically have an unprincipled individual who has no skills whatsoever. You have a couch potato who sits there and does nothing all day and doesn't have any motivation and doesn't act on anything. The second example I'd like to give is someone who has a really strong core, a really good person. We all know people like this who just have the best hearts, willing to do anything for someone else, and they don't have crust, they don't have a strong skill set, they don't know how to speak, they don't have confidence, they don't know how to write, they don't know how to communicate. So they have this greatness they feel swelling within them, but they don't have the tools they need in order to make that core make a difference. Then we have a very dangerous example. We have the people who have strong crusts and weak cores. Now I say weak core because I believe a strong core is someone who has a good moral principle set that does good things. That's what I consider a strong core. So a dangerous leader would be an example of Hitler. Hitler was very, very skillful, but his core was not a strong, good, principled core. And so we have a very dangerous person who comes from that. And we have that in today's society. We have people who are learning all these skill sets, but without context and without principles that go along with it, we create dangerous individuals. People who are powerful, but they don't have a positive direction to direct that power. So our goal is in Vanguard is to create people who have both these strong cores and these strong crusts together. Because when you have them together, not only do they have, I need to do this, and I have passion, and I need to direct myself this way, but then they also can do that. They can write that letter, they can communicate to that person, they can have the confidence to create the artwork or whatever it is they need to do as a vehicle for their passion and their mission. So that is just a quick summary on what we understand is the core and crust principle in Vanguard, and something that we will use throughout the rest of our presentations. Thank you.